back, everybody. It's another episode of Important Work. I'm your host, Chris Angel, and I'm joined by my guest and friend. Can I call you a friend, Ana?
Absolutely.
My friend, Ana Levin. Ana is not only a friend, but she's also one of our Groundswell guides. So when people come into our marketing agency and create their own shows, Ana is one of the people they can actually choose to work with as a guide and a co-host for their own show. Ana, you are a rock star. Thank you for hanging out with me today.
Thank you so much, Papa Groundswell, as we call you.
Papa Groundswell. That's so funny because I'm only 43, but Papa, I mean, I do have some silver fox going on here. So that is funny. Well, let's talk about you. This whole episode is about you. If we go back in our show, you interviewed me. Today, I get to interview you, and I want to know all about beyond what you do with us at Groundswell. What do you do in the world? What's your important work?
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much, first of all, for this opportunity. It's so fun always talking with you. And what I do, simply put, is I do energy alignments and I help people feel again. Because if you have noticed, like I have noticed, a lot of us have walls. And when we don't feel, what kind of life are we living, right?
Right.
So that is in a nutshell what I do. Mm-hmm.
It's you said that very simply, like I help people feel again, and period, and done. Okay. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Important Work.
We're done.
We're done. But I think there's a lot of layers that go into that, right? Like, I'm curious from the work that you do and where you sit, why do you feel like clearly you built a service around helping people feel?
Yes.
So you must have seen that people aren't feeling. Why do you feel like people aren't feeling?
Yes. And I do feel like we do feel. However, we go through hardships in life and inevitably our hearts close, right? Our hearts are constantly open and closing. But I feel like the older we get, with more beating that life, has on us, we build these walls and we don't even notice that they're there sometimes. Many people would actually say, I've been in coaching and said to my coaches, what do you mean I don't love myself? And getting really defensive. Like, I do love myself.
You said that?
Yes. And because I thought, and again, there's no black or whites.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is there was a part of me, and there is probably still a part of me that needs some more healing and more acceptance and more compassion and self-love and care. What I see in people is I see the hurts and I see the walls that they have built up because of that hurt. And I see how that prevents them from living joyfully, from accessing their creative genius, from sharing with us who they truly are. You know?
Yeah, that's really what you just said was interesting. Like, I feel, so are you saying that in order, because I think everybody wants to access their creative genius. I think we're clear that if we could access that thing that is very unique about us, we could produce more results. We'd have stronger relationships. Like, there's a lot of things in life that would open up for us. And are you saying that opening our heart or feeling again gives us access to that genius?
Absolutely. I only know it to be the only vessel through which we access our creative genius. And however, we are in a society, and I'm academia recovery.
Yeah.
Because we think that we can take a course, learn something, and then we're set to go. This is different. The work that I do is done in the quiet, and it's kind of like the moon, how it changes the tides, right?
Yeah.
And we don't even see it, but it's happening. That's the work that I do with myself first, and with others in my work, because I'm with everybody. I'm the same as everybody else. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like in the world of personal development, there's been this, which is sort of where I think people go to access their creative genius, like we're like, there's more of me. And so I'm going to go to personal development. And I think there's this very, I don't know if you want to use the word like masculine energy, or this very like, let's do stuff, let's produce stuff. Let's like this. It's more aggressive. It's more assertive than the quiet places in the background that you're talking about. Do you see that too, or no?
Absolutely. And I think I call it the dance between the masculine and the feminine. And I think it's in us learning how to dance with our own soul. And because there's nothing wrong with it. We need this. Okay. So we need our head, but we want it to be of service or in coherence with our heart.
Yeah.
And what I see a lot is that we think that because we know something, now we can take off, but we're not attached to our heart. We're not in congruency with the wisdom of our heart. And the magic comes from that coherence of both.
Where did this come from? Like, where do you feel like, if we look historically over time, I would say the internet era has a big thing to do with it, but I want to hear your perspective. I think we go far enough back, you start to get to really deep thinkers in life who were very spiritual. It wasn't super aggressive. But there was this moment, I don't know where this happened. There was this moment where personal development became about producing and production and this aggressive energy to it. And now I think that can leave us feeling, if it's too dominant that way,
yes,
I think it can leave us feeling inadequate and not enough.
Yes.
So where do you, like, historically, like, do you have any perspective on where that shifted? Or
I don't really, but my best guess would be it was a gradual evolution. You know,
Yeah.
we were just talking with some friends about the computer era and how when we were little, we had like, you were lucky if you had a computer, you know, one per household. And then soon enough, every household had a computer. And now like every person in the house has a computer.
Yeah. And a
And then
smartphone.
soon enough, we're going to have a chip in our hand. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's what
That would be really helpful, actually.
I think like exactly. Bring me a coffee. You know, so I think the natural progression and acceleration of the world made us like, ooh, let's produce. It's not enough. And so production without heart is what's leaving us empty and anxious.
That's
Right?
so good. Oh my God. And if you're listening to this in iTunes or Stitcher or whatever, like, just, you got to hit the like 15-second back button and just do that again, because that was so good. I think you're right. Like, it's leaving us, I think the desperation to produce a result in our relationship. Well, I mean, if we go to relationships for a minute, you can say like, okay, there's all this stuff on Instagram and Facebook and all the places that say our relationship should be this way. And then I look at what I have and I go, well, what I have isn't like that.
Yes.
And then I'm like, well, I need to produce a result so that what I have is like that. And now I go into this production mode.
Yes. Yeah. Well, now then we can have even another conversation, Chris, because that has to do with, again, our inability to really ease into what we have and just be content. Like if you have an iPhone 5, be happy you have an iPhone 5, right? If you have a 6, how about like we're not content. We don't know. We resist. We fight, right? And I'm speaking about me. Like you can ask my husband. But what happens when I say like, hey, you know what? This is what I get. I'm going to enjoy this. And we can do the same thing with emotions. I am frustrated. Great. I get it. Let me stay with my frustration. What is my frustration telling me? Well, we don't have the courage to have a dialogue with our emotions. We'd rather suppress them, shut them down because they're not appropriate, right? Or they're not comfortable. They're not nice. So let's just go produce, which is what you're talking about, right? Let's just go use our masculine energy. So at least I feel productive.
Yeah.
You're still out of touch with your soul. You're still out of touch with your wisdom. You're still out of touch with what is here. What are you here to create? What are you here to give? And when we find that, there's no other joy that equals that. Nothing.
Wow. I love that, because I feel like growing up, I was very in touch with my emotions. I was a very sensitive soul. And then I got into the real world, if you will. Like I grew up and I'm like, now I need to figure out what I'm supposed to do for work. And I didn't know where I fit. And then I got into real estate as was my first career, became a CEO after that. And then started my own company after that for consulting. And all the business world is so filled with production, produce a result. And that, and, you know, when it comes to providing for your family, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to produce a result.
Yes.
And I found my pendulum was like going from like being really in touch with my emotions to way over here and being like way out of touch with my emotions because I just need to produce a result. And I would say like I found myself on this side of things being the most unhappy I've ever been in my life. Like just unhappy.
Yes, because it wasn't you. And I think a lot of this is such a fascinating, again, like topic, because I think a lot of men go through that. And as an ex-teacher that I am, I saw that a lot, how little boys, it's not like we're really helping them to express their feelings. So
Mhm.
there's a huge place there for healing and permission, right? And
Mm.
space
Yeah.
for boys who become men to still be sensitive, still be masculine,
Hmm.
right? Still
Hmm.
be a good man, a full man, and to be able to express their
Hmm.
sensitivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think you're right, because it's in the, I mean, like you said, in the inside of the feminine, this is where, I mean, I think our tribe gets this. We don't really need to explain this too much. Our tribe gets feminine, masculine as distinct from man and woman, right? I mean,
Yes.
so we don't need to explain that too much. Some people will be like, I don't get it. Like, what are you
And
talking about?
everybody has it. Everybody has
Yeah.
it. So they
Right.
can also think about it like the flow and the doing, right?
Yeah, right.
The
Being,
being and
doing,
the
yeah, all
doing.
that. Yeah. But I think you're right. Like in the space of the feminine, in the space of this energy where we access wisdom and
Hmm.
creativity and joy and contentment,
Yes.
like all of that. How'd you say it earlier? Like open, like we get access to our creative genius,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And I feel like most of it, without the creative genius, then our production starts to become a hollow shell. It starts to be very empty. It starts to be very, um,
Robotic
depressing,
almost. Yeah.
robotic. Yeah. Yeah, because
Yes.
there's no life in it. There's no meaning in it. It's the feminine that brings meaning to the production of the masculine. The masculine can
Yes.
create stuff, but without the meaning that the feminine brings, like then
Yeah.
it's just like, what are we doing here? And then I think we start to fizzle. And this is where I think as a society we now are. Like we've swung so far in the masculine for so
Mhm.
long, for so long.
Yes.
Do you listen to shows like this and think, I could totally do that? You have a longing to connect more genuinely with your community and have a platform where you can play a bigger game. But you never start because either the tech's overwhelming or you don't want more work on your plate, or maybe you're not exactly sure what you would say. Yet you know you have really important things to share. This is why we created a done-for-you content marketing service, helping you give life to the conversations in your head to grow your business and your impact. Learn more at mygroundswell.com.
That we're starting to see like work from Brene Brown on I can't even say it, vulnerability.
Yes.
People who are starting to express these things that are more of a feminine energy, they're resonating. People are
Yes.
like, they're hungry, they're thirsty for this. They're like, yes, this is what I want.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, and again, I think we're coming from an era that hopefully I feel like it is changing
Mhm.
with the work that a lot of people are doing. And that's hopefully part of the legacy that I leave behind is to
Mm.
integrate all of who we are. And that's why I talk about the wisdom of the heart in coherence with the creative genius of our minds, because our
Right.
minds are beautiful,
Yeah.
but
Right.
we are letting the mind use us instead of vice versa,
Yeah.
right?
So good. Well, walk me through some of so like when you work with people to align them, to
Yes.
align their energy, help them feel again.
Mm-hmm.
What do you notice? Like we just described a whole bunch of ways it looks and feels from not having that. When you see people start to get realigned and feel again, what
Yes.
for you or for others, what have you noticed starts to happen?
I have noticed, first of all, I'm like incredibly honored of the gift that I was given, even
Mm.
though I tried to reject it ungratefully many times. And
Mm.
then finally I got so depressed because that's what happens when we reject our essence, right? I
Mm.
had to say, okay, thank you, God. I will say yes, and I will follow. I
Mm.
will feel and follow is really what I was getting, the message that I was getting. I noticed that people soften up. I
Mm.
notice that people
Mhm.
just like relax and can take a breath. I notice that people feel that they don't have the emotional charge of a specific event. You know, I've helped people, for example, that have gone through sexual trauma
Mm.
or abuse. And of course, a lot of things happen when we're children because simply we're so innocent and we don't have the tools to distinguish, right? Like it feels so real when my dad is an alcoholic, or it
Mm.
could be even something smaller. I remember one time saying to this one guy, I said like, have you, because I intuitively heard something happened to him when he was like around 3.
Mm.
Like, no, there was nothing major. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic. I'm like, well, do you think?
Mm.
So
Mm.
sometimes we're not even aware, um, of the trauma that certain experiences really have caused us.
Yeah.
And when I am able to pray for these people and remove that, and so that their energy can be aligned, it's really beautiful. They feel happier, they feel more relaxed and
Yeah.
just lighter is really a lot of the times what they say. More
Yeah.
inspired sometimes, and from that place
Mm.
they change their businesses, they change their relationships, they
Yeah.
feel empowered, they love themselves more, everything just falls into place, right? That's why it's
Yeah.
called an alignment. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm so grateful, to have said yes.
Yeah.
And it's also a reminder for all of us that when we are scared, because I was so scared,
Mm.
when we push ourselves a little bit more, and then we have friends that are supportive
Mm.
and brings us into their podcast, and we have, then it's possible. And then we realize like, oh my gosh, I was meant to do this. Yes, this
Mhm.
makes my heart happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like what people want is the heart to be happy. Like that's, you think about, like, a lot of our people are people who start a business, and they start a business because they see lifestyle, they see autonomy, they see
Yes.
flexibility, like they see all this, like all this stuff of like, oh yeah, owning a business, awesome. And then, like, we own a business, and for me 20 years later, I'm like, God, this is so exhausting. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And I think it took, for me, it took getting back to the feeling again, and what is this about, and being aligned to myself for me to not have to survive my own creation. I think so many people are surviving
Yes.
what they created for themselves rather than thriving inside of
Yes.
this it's not a self-expression until you bring the feeling into it.
Yes, and that feeling of survival goes for everything, not just business.
Mm.
When I decided 6 years ago, the big epiphany was we had just come back from church with my ex-husband and the kids, and I'm washing my hands in the sink, and I kid you not, I hear myself saying, "Oh my gosh, I am so done with surviving. I want to know what living is like."
Mm.
That
Yeah.
moment, that pivotal moment when you actually commit to something, and it's a choice, because nobody's forcing us to do anything. We just need to get clear in our hearts and have the courage to be clear, right? And truthful.
So good.
What do we really want?
Because inside of that, there's, as tender as it is, the heart is so strong. Like the heart
Yes.
moves in a way that anything else can't move. There's just this movement when it's the heart.
Yes, you can only see when you have this is gonna sound horrible, but if you have a bunch of guys and another guy comes and like tries to punch, then the guys are gonna get defensive, right?
Sure,
but if you have a nice lady that is super loving, they're all gonna turn their heads, right? Because that's what the different energies do, and that's the beautiful magnetic force of the heart.
Yeah, it's primal. It's so good. I feel so. So I'm curious, because give me some linear logic here for a minute, because this is very ethereal, and like when we get into the feminine and we get into the creativity space, it's very flowy. And
yes,
how do you move us? How do you bring us into alignment? How do we feel again? Like because other people might do this, but how do you do it? What's your
I do in person. So I'm in San Diego area. I do in person, some of them. Mostly I do remote sessions. And I also do circle healings. So what I do is we set the intention. I'm a big believer in empowering people and helping them develop an intimate connection and dialogue with their own spirit. Yeah. That's part of my mission as well. I am not like come to me, I'll fix you, goodbye. No, we're in this together. We're co-creating together. And then I don't keep them on the phone, because I just want them to relax, and I don't need them on the phone, which is amazing, right? That energy works this way. But we all know with quantum physics, it is not linear. Energy is energy. And then I go into my prayer, my process, and I just they use me as a channel for divine source energy. And source energy, which we call it God, spirit, right? It's where everything comes from. So it's this beautiful engulfing energy that just transmutes and takes away everything that does not belong. And as I'm doing that, of course, I'm able to have a dialogue with the divine and receive messages and ask sometimes questions that the person wants to ask, so that they can receive guidance, practical application, after we're done. That's my favorite, because we want to, because this is the one that doesn't, our head, for people that are listening, they're not seeing me, our head is the one that doesn't believe it. Yeah. Even though we're already, healed. Or that block is gone, or that emotional trigger is not there anymore. Yeah. And so we're so used to reacting in that way, or feeling in a certain way, in a certain, in certain experiences, that we don't believe it, and then we recreate it. And that's why I really encourage people to have a session, a three sessions. So that we can anchor, like 3 months, 1 session a month, or, or depending what the guidance that I received, but that seems to be like the magic number,
Yeah, because it would be especially when you're when your pendulum so far towards producing and not feeling. Yeah. I mean, you could say it that way, that the first experience of it is you're getting access to something you haven't had access to for a while. Yes. The second session brings you closer to not just more information, more feeling, more download, more access, right? The third session, I would imagine, brings you even into more of the creativity. Like, to access the creativity takes getting through some of the familiarity of what this is.
Yes, and it's a process. I mean, we have to be like not only patient, but loving enough with ourselves to allow ourselves to have the transition, to allow ourselves to have the self-healing process, right? Like, we want it, and that's what happens with these devices. We want it like yesterday. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have 1 session and I'm a changed person. I mean, I do believe in miracles, and I've seen it. I've seen miracles. Yeah. But in other areas, sometimes it's like peeling layers, and so it's okay.
That's my story. I peel layers most of the time. I'm a layer peeler.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. This is so powerful. This, to me, I feel like when we're taught, like, ultimately when I created this show, I wanted to inspire other people's important work by sharing the important work of guests on the show. And I feel like in order to access important work, we have to get to that space of feeling again and being in alignment with who we are. Yes. Because that's where the important part of work happens. Work can happen all the time, but the important piece of work happens when you start to reconnect to your feelings and you align with yourself.
And what's one of the beautiful byproducts, I would say one of the most powerful byproducts of the work that I do, is that the person not only develops, their beautiful connection with themselves, their discernment increases. And as we learn how to be more discerning within ourselves, that's also super important in actually getting to know who we are at a much deeper level. And the better that we know ourselves, imagine the creations that we're going to have, right? That we're going to make.
Totally. Yeah. So good. Well, Ana, how do people, if people want to reach out to you, they want this type of feeling back in their life, they want to be in alignment with themselves in order to bring the most important work to the world that they have to bring. How do people connect with you to work with you?
The best way would be through my website, Ana Laura Levin.
ANA. So yes. 1 N, ANA, Laura, LAURA, LIVIN.com.
That's right. Beautiful. And so, just reach out. I'm also on Facebook, but just reach out. I always tell people the most important thing is, if you feel it in your heart, reach out. That's it. So I mean, that's all you need. That's all you need to do.
I love it. Well, so good. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for your important work in the world. And I can't wait to, we get to talk to each other more often than not, because we work together in some capacities through our agency. But other than that, I look forward to seeing you when I see you, and all my best. Thanks for being
here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Do you have important work in the world? We can help you produce a show just like this one and get your message out in the world. Go to mygroundswell.com to connect with us now.